And today we have an excellent speaker, Neha Upadhyaya, and I'm very excited. I had a sneak peek of her presentation, and she's a climate leader, and her pioneering work is Eco Village Lady of India. Even this makes me very excited. So I will not take your time, Neha. So I would like to give the floor to you so you introduce yourself further and share with us your experience. And thanks again for joining us today. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you for assembling on Tuesday, middle of the week, and supporting me and my cause. I am Neha Upadhyay, fondly known as the Eco Village Lady of India, for my work in the Indian Himalayan region, which is also the second largest glacier of the world. So many people, when they think of Ladakh or the Indian Himalayas, especially in the political context, they think, oh, it's just 3 lakh people, a few million people, and some tribes. Yes, but those tribes and those people are looking after our water. Imagine going without water for one day when you can't wash your hands, when you can't cook, when you can't bathe, or even have a sip of water. So it is our communities that live near the glaciers endure all the hardships to protect the glaciers and protect the mountains day after day, year after year. So, with that thought, I pledged my youth, almost 12 years. I'm working with flash flood victims of Ladakh. Ladakh had flash floods in 2010, 11, 14, 15, 17, and 2023. So, imagine having everything, your office, your home, and then it gets washed out. We are hearing of heat waves in Netherlands and also in Ladakh. I hear the temperatures rising. It's about 37 degrees in the summer, and as you can see in the visuals, it's they are mostly snow-capped mountains there, and the communities are snow-fed. So for a snow-fed community to suddenly have that heat and homes built to combat winter and cold, they don't have fans, they don't have coolers, they don't have ACs. It gets them it becomes so difficult for them to survive that. However, we pledged to collect a few thoughtful women self-help groups across 8 villages of Ladakh. So if you can see in this image, we have mentioned the villages. They are in eastern and western Ladakh. One part of Ladakh borders China and one part of Ladakh borders Pakistan. So it's a geopolitical sensitive area. It's one of the toughest regions to live in, to work for, to survive. And I have an ancestral connection. My great grandfather was Mahapandit Vishwanath Upadhyay, who meditated in the Himalayas for 13 years when he was only 6 years old. And when I started work there, it was as if it was some sort of a divine call. I have two British degrees. I went to Lancaster University and King's College London, and I am ex Gerson Ledman Group professional. I worked with clients like Bain and McKinsey, but I just felt that this work, my NGO work, is more important and will benefit everyone, not just India or my family or my pocket, but I strongly felt that preservation of our glaciers would benefit the whole world. And I will talk more about that. We've talked about the climate shocks and flash floods. Also, there is a human cost. So, most of us are women here, and we are talking about women. In Ladakh, we have 92% anemia. So, every second lady, every second girl child has brittle nails and is stout and, battling fatigue. So, anemia is um, very common. And then 2024, we had no snowfall. And in 2025, we had untimely snowfall. In 2026, we are again experiencing a heat wave. So this is not how we imagine the third pole of the world or our glaciers the glaciers and snow-fed mountains expect snow at the right time so the fields can be irrigated and the whole community can thrive. Also, we have a lot of unsustainable construction, like we have these so called solar parks. You know, they require a lot of water to clean the panels. And when they are being built, the we have a lot of geothermal liquid that gets flown into the water stream that pollutes the water stream. And in these areas, the tribes, they actually pray to the lake, they pray to the mountains. So, do we always have to constantly build? Can we not repair and use? The constant argument that we get is, oh, how do you use your mobile phone, and how are you conducting this webinar through the laptop, and we need the critical minerals for that. So for that, we have to break your mountains, we have to make these ultra parks. Yes, there is a way, and there are areas where some construction is possible. But incessant construction and this constant need of changing your phone every 2 years to a new model, that mindset also has to change. We have to believe in repairing and reusing, as opposed to just, constantly upgrading and constantly, replacing. So that mindset has to go. We also have to understand that solar energy, when it is distributed as appliances or as tools, must reach women, and they must reach our homes. So, for instance, in Ladakh, we built this eco model villages. By eco model villages mean we farm organically. We use solar products that are low cost, portable, and women friendly. So, in all the four images, you can see there are these small appliances, and there are women gathering, writing. We conduct these training programs, and I ensured that I don't want to show people a factory or a big park where there are these innovations, and I can be touted as a very big scientist with all my education. But I ensured with feminine thoughts that these appliances should reach women, should reach their homes. They should be able to cook with it and dry their harvest, because 80% of revenue generation in the region is with apricots. That's their gold and silver. So my mind worked like that. I did not want to give them a polluting factory. I did not want to give them an unsustainable hotel, because responsible tourism is also on my mind, and we are building a project on that. So, this is my journey from crisis to community transformation. 2010 to 14, we had the flash floods. 2017, so you can see the long gap. I could have been a top corporate person, but I kept collecting help and wanting to help the sensitive communities. 2017, with the help of Global Environment Facility and United Nations, we deployed decentralized renewable energies for women farmers. 18 to 19, we worked heavily on plastic reduction, because in Ladakh alone, in one day, we collect 30,000 plastic water bottles. Can you imagine the human mind? 30,000 plastic water bottles are dumped every day in the mountains. With our interventions, we got it down to about 18,000. And there were women who were very strict, and they said, no, you cannot do this. We cannot allow this. You can go back, but you can't do this. So, this was a very strong message, but it was very important for Ladakh. 2020, we all know we suffered from the pandemic. However, our NGO was open every single day. We fed about 7,000 people, distributed oximeters, masks, soaps. We built toilets for them. And I promise you, I didn't know that I had the strength. And I always tell people that you don't have to be an NGO, you really just have to care. And you really need to have important friends, important networks who can help you so you can help other people. 2021 to 23 was when we successfully developed 8 eco villages, and we deployed about 16 solar innovations for tribal women. The local government actually called me, and they said, Madam, you have bombarded the area with innovations. We had given them so many innovations and machinery. And 2024 was when the Indian government, the Niti Aayog, and Indian media recognized me as the Eco Village Lady of India, because by now I had built the maximum eco villages in India. So you can see here, this is the apricot I talked about, which is their main cash crop. This is a small video. You can see their tragedy. How difficult it is having apricot oil. See the shoulder and the hand movement. Very little oil comes out from them. You can see their fingers also swelling. See, comes up. So this was the apricot processing. We gave a slogan of from floods to food. We will create organic solar dried apricots. We will create apricot oil. We will not give up and we will become green economy. These are my team members. So I always work with mothers. I also take the advice of older people. And, we've created a model which is inclusive and ancient indigenous wisdom is very important for us. So I want to take you back to the oil extraction video that you saw. So they have two methods of making the oil, which is used to light the lamp, which is they put on their face and they cook their food with it. Earlier, either they would take out oil in that manner on a stone pelter, or they would have to walk 35 kilometers to extract one single bottle of oil. And my heart used to break because in New Delhi, we have quick commerce and you can actually get a bottle of oil within 20 minutes, or anything that you want, it comes to our doorstep, someone is standing with the product. And when I started working in Ladakh, I said 35 kilometers for one bottle of oil or one slab of butter. That is the drudgery, which is not talked about in the media, which is not talked about on a global platform. We found an oil extraction unit which costs only $403, and we gave it to our communities. And now this is a home-based innovation. These women, they don't have to walk for 35 kilometers. They can make it at the comfort of their home or in a community hall. So these were just some small feminine thoughts I had, and we provided these innovations. This is our most loved and awarded innovation. This is the tsak. This is locally made by women for women in the Himalayas. It costs only $120. And there are 10 wooden trays with some net mesh. And in 1 year, they reduced 436 kgs of carbon emissions. And earlier, the solar dryers that were provided to them were static. It was in one place. Again, you have to walk uphill, downhill, 20, 30 kilometers, waste all the food. It was a big catastrophe. And this one was affordable. You can see there are two women. There was no need for a man. And it extended the shelf life of the apricots from 2 days to 2 years. So this was again a climate smart solution. And now I hear that we have a market for it. In the US, it's the solar powered agricultural market is for about $1.3 million. So, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I remember my parents always saying that you have this big education, corporate background, you're worrying about fruits dying. It's like, no, Daddy, you wait. I'm going to prove it. It's a great necessity and a big model, yes. And so again, you can see we distributed these solar kits and solar water heater because the temperature in the winters drops down to minus 30 degrees. And if you can see the how compact it is. So this was again everything we designed was for women and for women who can put it to use as opposed to a display and a park or a factory where they can't use it. So they can charge their mobile with it, and a farmer's home can be lit up with 4 bulbs. And it costs only about 2 to 3,000 rupees, roughly $30-40. This is our solar cooker. You can see our clothing. You can see communities gathering. Again, some 536 kgs of liquefied petroleum gas emissions is saved, and especially at the time of the war crisis. This year in February and March, I got so many phone calls. Thank you, madam. You gave us this device 9 years ago, and we are using it now also because we don't have any gas. And And I said, I'm glad it's put to use. And, this is my argument that a mobile phone lasts for about 5 years maximum, but our solar appliances have lasted them 9 to 10 years. And they have helped them in major times of crisis like the Gulf War and the pandemic. So we are quite grateful that they're put to use. And to combat anemia, started farming of mushrooms. And this was a bit of a social taboo because in the region, mushrooms were not so popular because of our Buddhist heritage. They were not very aware of mushroom and they thought it's some sort of a non-vegetarian item. And I had to tell them that it's not a non-vegetarian item. It is a type of a fungi which gives a lot of iron. So this is the plantations and mushroom cultivation that we did with local trainers who were speaking the local Bhoti language. These were the toilets that we gave. And again, we had a social taboo because earlier in Ladakh, in the villages, they just had a dry compost pit. It was literally a hole where women had to squat. And I have also relieved myself in one of those holes next to animals. I was surprised that in 2025, still we don't have toilets. And I faced some old people who said, this is not our culture. And I said, sir, this may not be the culture for you, but for women, when we menstruate and when we are pregnant, it's very difficult to squat and we can get many infections. So, on those lines, I was able to distribute about 15 public toilets to many people in need. This was the plastic waste we talk about, how many women gathered, and we talked about the waste, we talked about the reduction. So you can see they are very strong. And this is my message when you talked about mentorship, that women have a lot of power and it has to be exercised properly. We have to come out with the costs that how much plastic we generate and what is the environmental damage that the plastic and the floods cost, and how can we mitigate it through soft power, through ancient wisdom, through indigenous practices. And another thing, since a lot of women are here, women entrepreneurs work a lot and we work very hard. In India, we are only 14% registered, only 3% get funded, and 1% survive. And sometimes I've had to take therapy because for how long can you be on survival mode? And we kept working. And this was a statistic that I found that really took me out of all my pain and miseries, that in one of the villages where I had given my maximum time, there was reverse migration from 27 to 75 households because the village had so many green opportunities. Now women started saying organic, they started saying solar, they started welcoming tourists and giving them their products. And they all gave testaments in Hindi. I don't think you can understand it, but they all gave testaments of how happy they were to receive these toilets, to receive these solar dryers, solar cookers, solar kits year on year, so they can build something, as opposed to not having anything in their community. This is in Hindi. This is an old man. I won't take much time. So we've had many partnerships, and partnerships are very important. We've had partnerships with the Indian government, with Shell Foundation, IKEA Foundation, Jeff, and we worked on UN Sustainable Development Goals like climate action, responsible consumption and production, and access to affordable and clean energy. This is my most important point because our farmers, they had no solar energy, and in one of our villages where we distributed our energy solutions, they said they received the solar appliances after 24 years. I said, then what was happening in those 24 years? Nobody came to give you any devices. So they were very, very lesser served. And you can see these are tribes who want to protect their cultural identity. They don't want to look like us, they don't want to wear our clothes or speak our language, and we must respect that. And with those ideals, we created the eco model village. My work got published in the Swedish library, and I got to speak at various universities like Yale University. I recently attended an environmental justice conference at Stanford. So I was able to talk about our tribes who are never visible. There is big research going on now on invisible farmers, like how easy it is to erase them because they were never talked about. They were never shown to other parts that such tribes exist. And only in Ladakh, we have 24 indigenous tribes. So we should protect them. And with my work in such a remote and hidden area, I won many awards and many scholarships from government of Sweden, from the British Council, from Step Unpollute, Earthwatch, Earth Day Network. So God is very kind, and I am the first girl in the family to have done this and received all this recognition. I got to meet royal homes of England. You can see King Charles, Queen Camilla, that is the minister from Estonia, and also the Queen of Sweden. So my way forward is to make Ladakh and our Indian Himalayas fully organic, and it is possible. We seek your support, and we also seek your good wishes that we can scale it to more villages in India and in the rest of the world. And from Eco Village Lady of India, I want to become the Eco Village Lady of the world. So I'm very grateful for your audience and for you for hearing my presentation. Thank you so much.